Welcome to Sacred Rebellion. I'm Kim Andryc.
And I'm Lora Solomon. In this podcast, we defy convention and shatter the stereotypes of what it means to be healthy and holy.
It's time to rebel.
Let's do this. Coming up on this episode, Kim, we're going international today.
Whoop, whoop. A global presence.
Today we have Anna Golden Ray.
I love her name.
Not only are we going international, we're going multi-dimensional. Okay?
Yes.
She is a multi-dimensional healer who's leading the way for people to remember the sheer power and potential they hold in their body.
Anna Golden Ray helps spiritual leaders utilize their body as their greatest spiritual asset so they can bring forth their vision with multi-dimensional alignment and ease. Welcome, Anna. Welcome to the Rebellion.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's so nice to have you. And I'm so curious. I'm excited to talk to you. I want to hear more about your work. One of the things that really captured my attention was on your website. It indicates that you have a unique ability to see energy moving through the body and understand how it's all connected. So tell us a little bit about your work.
Okay, so in a way, I don't really know how I ended up, it's been a beautiful unfolding, but I didn't set out to do what I'm doing. But my first career, I started off as a makeup artist. I always knew that I was sensitive to energies. And then I became a yoga teacher. And in class, even as a very new yoga teacher, I would have these specific downloads, like just this pure inner knowing of where the energy was blocked in the person, because it's all connected, right? Where we get strength from in the body is how the energy flows, how we're able to transform the physical strength energy through multiple muscles and breathe through it. And it's I would see these little blocks, okay, that person is holding their breath. That person needs to shift their weight. That person needs to do this. And I would also receive downloads about, okay, this is a physical problem. This is a quote unquote personal problem. This is something about their belief system. That's why they're not connected to this body part. And so for a long time, I was just working as a yoga teacher, and I would help students who'd been practicing way longer than me, having, in a way more experience about the yoga, about the postures and everything, but I would still be able to give them that little bit of tweak for them to understand their bodies better. And then eventually I realized that the yoga room, you can only do so much in a yoga class. You can't change people's lives. And sometimes they're not even there because they want personal development. They don't want to face themselves in the same way, even though they come to class. They just want that little bit of workout. So that's how I ended up doing coaching. And so when I started doing coaching, I was I'm just going to do energy work, and it's going to be about manifesting. It's going to be all about these things. And I kid you not, in every session, the body would come up, because I would see, it would be that link of, okay, this is where the energy, whether it's trauma, whether it's emotional attachments, whether it's limiting beliefs, this is where it's stored in the body. So it was, I don't know, the body never leaves me. That's I can't shake the body. Mm-hmm. And that's how my work has really developed into being this, helping spiritual leaders understand their body, understand how it's all connected, because there is so much confusion and distortion and all of the things around. It's we've created a physical body and then an alter persona, which is like our spiritual self. And they're really one and the same, but we almost act as their or live as their two separate entities, like the body is just a meat suit.
And I was even thinking, listening to what you were saying, like you were trying to shake the body.
Yeah.
Like, and you think about how often that happens, whether it's from a religious perspective or even more spiritual seekers, there's this sense that the body is something, it's like a impediment or a block, or the you know, the lesser part of you, the part that you need to shake off, get rid of, and, you know, escape somehow so you can be spiritual, you know, like that thread, that type of thinking goes through. I mean, certainly yoga helps, you know, to bring them back together. I mean, that's the, you know, I think one of the things that yoga is supposed to do is yoke them back together and show and honor that they are connected. But I think this, you know, we have a pandemic of disconnection.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Like, yes, exactly that. And it's so fascinating, right? Because it's like, it's been my own journey, but just even in the development of my coaching, that was the thing that I was like, oh, but hang on, why am I trying to not do the body? Like thinking that working with the body can only be through movement or being through physically when it's so not it. It's like we work with the body all the time. Like we experience life through the body.
It's our instrument, right?
Exactly. The body is with us from start to finish, however we want to, like,
at least on this physical plane, for sure, right?
Exactly.
Right.
But so that's the question that I'm actually really fascinated with these days. Okay, so if our body is with us from start to finish, like, what is our body really? Why do we have a body if like everything in the universe is made perfectly? Surely there must be some really powerful meaning behind why we chose to have a body in the first place.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the clients that you serve, and like, you know, who comes to you, and you know, what is it, what is the experience with you? What is that like?
Yeah, so I work with, I've had the pleasure to work with a lot of spiritual leaders, like they're coaches, they're healers, they're reading their own Akashic records, and everyone comes to me because they kind of feel this, like, they feel the disconnect that they have within their body. And some come because they have like something actually going on with the body that they know that they want to, like, just deepen their connection with. And I'm not talking necessarily about like acute disease or anything like that, but it's more of that feeling like I've got this thing going on in my body and I know I need to trust my body. I know I need to lean into the body, but I don't really know how to do it. And the experience that I take them on, which has been so fascinating as well, it's the thing that it's like the gift that keeps on giving, is that the red thread that I see for all of my clients, for all of my sessions, for no matter what top of mind pressing problem you come in, it's all the return to the inner knowing. So, and that's the theme that I've seen through my sessions, and what I give my clients is that understanding that what I mentioned a little bit about before, like, why do we have a body? Well, it is our greatest asset as an energy processing tool, So whatever is coming up in the body knows how to handle, but it also needs to have the space and the permission and sometimes the tools to effectively process and let go, whether it's like trauma or past life experiences. So my sessions are multidimensional in that way. Like it anchors into the body. It always starts within the body, but it can really be about so for example, one of my friends, one of my clients is also a friend, she had this eating habit that she couldn't shake. Like she would just stuff her face beyond the feeling of full. And she wasn't overweight, but she just felt like I can't wrap my head around, like I can't understand why it is. Because she loved food, but she wanted to be able to enjoy it in a more balanced way. So we went down into her body, and what came up was like a past life experience where she'd been like, chained to a wall, starving, and all of this thing. But it was less about that memory and more about that the way that she'd gotten there in that lifetime had been from neglecting her inner knowing. So her eating habit was like, she wanted to feel herself, like she wanted to listen back to herself. So she was trying to get in touch with that part of her. I don't know if this is making sense.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. What it's bringing up for me is this. Okay, so might sound silly to say this out loud, but our body is our birthright, right? Okay, it's like the only thing you get when you're born is a body. Now, they put a diaper on you and put clothes on you and do all this stuff, but you're born, like whoever you are, you're born with that. That is your equipment, your instrument. And we are socialized to not trust our inner knowing. Like, so that is a learned, not trusting ourselves is a learned adaptation to living in this world.
Yeah.
And so it's almost what I see working with people. My process is different, but it's also similar in that what are the barriers, right? So if the knowing is there, you have the body, what are the barriers that, like the breadcrumbs or the challenges to reconnecting with something that's always been there, right? And then you bringing up, past lives, and I totally believe in this too, that our souls bring things. So it's like thousands of years of learning, lifetime after lifetime, to disconnect from the body. So it can almost feel overwhelming when you realize kind of what you're up against. That
But the cool thing though, and this is the thing that I find in the body as well. Like, how do you go from confusion? What's the remedy of confusion? Connection.
mm-hmm.
So if you're weak in your body, all you need to do is like connect the muscles, like connect the movements, connect to your inner knowing. And that connection clears out all confusion, because you can't be confused and connected at the same time. So it's like the work that I do is I help, like it's almost like crab claws or like little pinches. It's like wherever my clients have been in confusion, where they've abdicated their power, where they've handed off their inner knowing to a source outside themselves, I'm there to help them go tick, tick, and bring the connection back. And it's incredible how effective it is, because once you know, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you know, you know. We actually just recently did an interview where that was a theme. And I'm just so intrigued, because so much, so much of what you're talking, it's like all truth is God's truth, right? And when you started talking about the red thread connecting everything together and that inner knowing, it made me think of Mary Magdalene and her ministry, the red thread, and what she calls the new, KNEW, like that, connecting to that, or at least that's what people, anyway, connecting to that part that is within all of us. Yeah, it's beautiful.
But the challenge there, though, is often the ego, which is
Yeah.
attached to safety and security,
Mhm.
doesn't want to know what you know.
Yeah.
So I think acknowledging that there's part of me that doesn't want to know what I know,
Yeah.
because it can be like, oh, if you're confused, you just know. And then it's like, life is all downhill with your hair flying in the wind after that. Right.
Mhm.
But it's, it's like, what do you do when you know something that your ego doesn't want to know? And it could be something like, this relationship is not working anymore. You
Yeah.
might not want to know that because you've got a lot invested in,
Or
in
this
that,
career.
or this job is. And so it's like, but the ego's like, but this job is paying the bills and is bringing you all these things. But then, but you don't want to know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, what do you do when you know something that you don't want to know?
Well, I've had a personal experience. I put myself through a lot of tests. Like that's been my own journey. But one of the things that I did was, this is years ago. I'd had my spiritual awakening. I was like all in, like super, super connected, super connected every day. I was manifesting like, and then I ended up, the first time I actually moved to the city, to Brussels, there's a big party scene. And I'd never touched any like substances in my life, because I was like, why do I want to do that? But I was curious about what's the rush behind it. Like, why do people search for that? Like, why is it such a big pull? So it's like, and also because in the whole community about like, once you never want to do that again, or I wanted to test my connection as well to all that is, to God or the universe. So for about a month, I went full on party machine. And it was really fascinating, because I found that under, like, my personal experience, like under substance, you kind of get to the same thing, but it's not as good because you didn't get there yourself. And so when you meditate, when you do all of your spiritual practices, you have more of a full body awareness. And it's almost this thing of like, and I knew that, and it shifted my experience of this, like, yeah, but sometimes we don't want to know. And it's also okay not to want to know, because from that experience, you actually learn so many other things about yourself. So it's sometimes there can be a narrative like the spiral only has to go upwards, and it's just a continuous evolution of like going like this. But a part of this life experience is like going into the places that are like where you are being called, and maybe you want to stay in that relationship because you want to bang your head a little bit longer, or you want to stay in that job because you want to bang your head a little bit longer, you want to put yourself through a little bit more stress so that that breaking point can come. Because sometimes it's like, I think it's a human thing. Like sometimes we just want to get a breaking point. Sometimes we want to understand ourselves a little bit more.
Yeah. Like
So,
hitting a bottom, there's, right.
yeah.
And you hear that more in the world of addiction or something, that you hit it. But I've experienced that in relationships and in work and everything, that there's a certain level of discomfort, but it's like, I'm still tolerating it. And then at some point there's a bottom.
It's
That's
intolerable.
that something inside of me says, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
playing this game anymore. I'm done.
And
Yeah.
isn't it so valuable though, that whole process to
Mhm.
get there?
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's one of the things that I've been thinking about recently, about like, there comes a time, especially like for women, because women's voices has been silenced for so long. Like it's just been, we are the creative force. Like we have that creative center within us. Like we're the birther of life, right? But the collective voices of women have been tempered with, it's been, I think I'm preaching to the choir here. You know what I mean? It's been silenced for so long, but it comes a time in a woman's life where all of that, because energetically, everything that goes on in the voice, it's stored in the hips. It's stored by the sacral. And at one point, there comes like this little flame that just takes this spark, which is the drop that's just enough. And it goes to burn and light up all of the like sacred rage that we've been storing through the hip, through the womb space. And the power of that sacred rage is that it burns up through the entire body, comes out through the voice, comes out in a way that like the woman is just like enough. And you don't argue with a woman when she's like in that stage. There's no argument. Like that's why people say like, don't argue with women, like because there is a force within her. And I've seen it for myself, I've seen it for clients, I've seen it for so many women around me. It's like when that happens, when that sacred rage comes in, it like purges all of the conditioning, it purges all of the limitations.
Okay. Is
I
that
think we're
a hot flash?
one of the things I was thinking is it's kind of happening in the collective women now too, right?
Wow.
This forceful rage and this getting to the end and like enough is enough. We've seen that with the Me Too movement, and now you're feeling a little bit of a swell happening as the result of some of the activities that have been happening around abortion here in the United States. So how do you see that whole situation?
I honestly, I mean, my heart goes out to all of the women that are actually in a state where, or in a place where they don't have legitimate right to have a say. But like on a collective perspective, I'm all here for it. Like I'm all here to fan those flames, because I see that that is the kind of no, that is the kind of like enough is enough that's actually going to change systems, that is actually going to break down. Like when enough women have had enough, it's just like it's a force way more powerful than possibly anything on the planet, I believe. And I think that's what ultimately, what's gonna get us to a space like collectively and like individually, where we're just taking a new stand for ourselves, where we're raising the bar, where we're raising the standard, where we're not like, they can say like, quote unquote, like anyone can say whatever they want, but we're not playing it. Like we're not playing those games anymore. We're
Yeah.
changing the system fundamentally.
And that is such a tricky thing, because I think what you're referring to is women standing in their power and knowing that they're powerful and getting out of that game of asking for permission, right? Like I'm going to ask you for authority to be in my body.
Empower me, please. Empower me.
Yeah. And so it's a different conversation, and I actually had this with my daughter, and I said to her, listen, we both want the same thing, which is women to feel powerful in their bodies and to be connected to each other and be connected to the plant and this deep ecology and all of this. Like, we want the same thing. My perspective at this point is that we're not going to get it by asking for it and trying to get someone to grant us permission. And it, like, I'm done with that. I've done that my whole, like, please tell me it's okay to be powerful. No, I'm done. And so it's like this collective bottom of, I'm not asking anymore. I'm not going to be nice about it. I'm not going to be sweet about it. I'm not going to be quiet about it. Done.
Yeah.
It's my body is my birthright. End of conversation. Peace. I'm out. Like, done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
exactly. And I think that's exactly the thing. It's like, when we raise the standard, when it's not just about playing around with boundaries, but we're like raising the standard. It's like, we don't tolerate anything that's less than like up here.
And it's almost like it no longer even exists.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like, I'm not going to fight against it.
Yeah.
It just no longer exists.
Because you legitimize it by having a conversation with it.
Exactly.
It's like someone says something ludicrous. It's like, I'm not even going to have that conversation. That's the stupid conversation. It's a waste of my time.
Exactly.
Like, just not having it.
Isn't it so fascinating though, that once a woman have that, like, I know from my personal journey, that's the conversation I had with myself. Like, that's the level that I raised in my own life before I met my partner. Because before, like with romantic partners or whatever, like, you just accept ridiculous things. Like, we are so inclined to accept just crazy making. And it comes a time when you're just like, I'm just not available for that anymore.
Right.
And the moment you're not available for it, that's when you meet someone that it's like the perfect match to what you've been wanting for, like what you've been praying for, what you've been desiring for all this time. And what if it's the same with the systems? Like, what if we just stop being available for these ridiculous things and we just go, honestly, you can say whatever you want, but I know, like, this is what, and we just, like, on a practical level, obviously I don't have the answers for what it's gonna look like, but I'm also seeing that if legislation goes too far, how long will it take for certain, like, if we're talking abortion in this state, in this thing, like, for a group of doctors to open up a private hospital and just do whatever they want, and just whatever, and find whatever loophole it is, or find whatever, and just raise the bar, and all of a sudden everyone just comes along with it.
Yeah. And it's just a good reminder that everything that's outside is a reflection of inside.
Yeah.
Right. So the change, that moment, that decision doesn't come after the external world gets its shit together. And you have to decide first, like, whether it's that relationship, right, that you decide, I'm not doing that anymore. Like, you don't wait till Prince Charming to show up and prove to you that you're worthy of something better. You have to decide. And then that person can show up. It's the other way around.
Well, it's changing our vibration so that we no longer resonate with what's not working in our lives. And as we as a collective, change our vibration, like you said, Laura, like the external world has to resonate at that same vibration, at that same frequency. So, yeah, I have this conversation with my dad all the time. I'm like, you know, politics as an example. I'm like, it's not working. It's crumbling. It's just going to have to crumble. And, that makes, when I say that to other people, it makes them worried, like, oh my gosh, it'll be chaos. And I'm like,
Yeah. But there's an inner knowing. We'll know, human ingenuity, creativity will create something that works.
We
It's
created this. So why can't we
Yeah.
create something else?
Exactly. And then isn't it interesting also that in that kind of, I was just thinking, I was having a conversation actually with a yoga student yesterday who was talking about this, like starting to practice a lot of yoga and like the body being the processing, like energy processing tool. What happens when you start doing that? What happens when you meditate? What happens when you like have a spiritual experience or whatever? You might get in touch with like energy stored in your body that hasn't been able to process. So
Mhm.
sometimes it can stir a lot of stuff. It's just like,
Grief.
yeah.
Yeah, grief
It's
and
just like,
shame and all
I've
kinds
been
of
Yeah.
nasty,
crying.
shadowy shit.
When I first started yoga, every time I went to this beginner's yoga thing, every time during Shavasana, I would cry.
Yeah.
And I was embarrassed. I had no idea why, but I had all of these emotions just stored up in my body. And with the breathing and the twisting and the moving, it was released.
Yeah.
So it was this beautiful release. But then again, we have this, like, we shouldn't cry because that means we're sad and we shouldn't be sad. And so then we stop it,
Exactly.
like we want to shut it down.
And
Yeah.
the thing that I meant, the thing that I still said to her as well, it's like, understand that like when we're processing, we're just processing and it can look a lot messy. And we can either be in that process and we can like think of it as sweating. Sweating is not very flattering. It's like, but the beauty of sweating is like one of the healthiest things you can do because you're literally eliminating toxins. So you can either bask in that, oh my God, I'm getting rid of all of this stuff that I've held on to. I'm purifying myself. Or you can start overthinking sweating and go, oh my God, but what about the minerals that I'm losing? And oh my God, now they're outside of my body. And how do I get them in? The choice is really like, do we enjoy the process to actually be that process in learning about our values, to allow everything to be a little bit messy and not to need a plan to figure it out for 10 years from now? What is life going to look like 10 years from now? Like, does it really matter? Or can we allow ourselves to be in the process of like the world, quote unquote, like whatever system is crumbling, or like your processing or your inner world is shaking up, and see it as this beautiful ability to connect with the pieces of you that have been hidden for so long.
Right. Can we talk about hot flashes a little bit? So
Sweating and
so
burning
Anna,
and
you are too young for this. So this is not part of your life right now.
but it's coming.
But
Maybe.
It's coming.
and I've had this conversation with women who are kind of on this journey, right? Trusting the body doesn't make mistakes, everything happens for a reason, right? So then we get to this point in our life and now something's going on with, all of a sudden we're sitting there having a nice lunch with somebody or having a conversation and the temperature in our body goes up, like 20 degrees. Right?
Really
So-
fast.
Really fast.
So fast.
So your skin is burning, your face is flushed, your makeup
sweating.
is melting, so this is a reality for a lot of women. And what women either get embarrassed about it, some walk around with a portable fan they just shamelessly pull out of their purse. Some take hormones to make it go away. But in the spirit of the body doesn't make mistakes, right? That this is something. So one, something that someone said to me recently, that maybe it is this collective rage that we are individually like burning through, that it comes up. And even what you were saying about your womb, right? And that how it's connected to your voice, and how so often we are quiet out of fear, usually, right? We don't want to be seen as, annoying or loud or scary or something. But I don't know. What do you think as a multidimensional healer that can see energy, when you see this heat just arising in a woman? Like, how do we make that how do we make peace? How do we turn that into a positive, especially when it's like waking us up every 2 hours at night?
Yeah. So the thing that's coming up to me as you're speaking is like, first of all, recognizing that like menopause in general, it's a big transition. Like if we think about archetypes, it's like this whole transition from like, what is it?
To the
like
crone.
Made into crone.
Yeah.
Made into crone. And it's like, so there is like in all transitions, it's also like the process. Because I haven't experienced it myself, I can't give you any like intuitive, like personal reflections, but I will say this. I've experienced, like from personal experience with menstrual cramps, it's how you relate to yourself and to your body at that time changes everything about the intensity and the like longevity of a cramp or of like period pain in general. So one thing that's coming up because I haven't dived into hot flashes in that sense.
They're so powerful. So there's a sense that there's some kind of power there.
Yeah.
And some women will call them power surges. So it's a very powerful experience that we obviously have a negative relationship with, because it's like a menstrual cramp. Like it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think we all learn on this spiritual journey, and especially as we explore, the body, is anytime there's discomfort, softening into it. So like what you were just saying about menstrual cramps, just like really trying to change your relationship with menstrual cramps and soften around it, and it lessens the intensity and the duration. That's true of all kinds of pain, right? Any kind of tension in the body, if we can try and relax and soften into it.
It's like giving birth.
So we should soften into our hot flashes.
I mean, we could try.
Well, I think it's there's a thing of like,
it's embarrassing.
No, but I totally can see, obviously having witnessed women with experiencing this, but I wonder if it's like this beautiful time of this transition of like, you go into a time where you've been the mother, like you've been so much, like the focus has been on everyone outside of you for so long, and you're transitioning into a space where your kids have usually like grown up quite a while, so they're getting more independent, which means that you also have another status in life. Like you have another status at your job or whatever, because when a 20-year-old is not taking as seriously as a woman in her 40s or 50s, right? And I think there's this thing like what you were saying as well, Lora, of how have you been kind of like swaying from yourself? And I want to use the word like swaying in with softness, because it can be things like not speaking up or giving away your power or seem to everyone around you. So with all of the experiences in the body, there is a message between, like beneath it, all of the time. And I wonder if that could be a very interesting journey while you're there to just go, okay, what is this trying to, like, when does it come? What is it like? What is it? Where is it originating? Like, how is it doing? Because heat is like fire. It's like,
Right. Well, that's what you were saying, that rage, so it feels like a transformational process. That's really what it feels like.
burning
And
through the layers.
You know what's funny? I was watching a movie a long time ago. I had been starting to have hot flashes. It was The Hobbit, and it was the scene where we meet the dragon, right? And the dragon is starting to fuel the fire that's going to come out the mouth. And so there's this tiny little ember, and it's like right around sacral solar plexus spot on the dragon, this little spark of this ember, and then it starts to glow and glow, and then it grows big, and then before you know it, he's shooting fire out of nothing. And I'm there with my family, and I'm like, oh my God, that's it. That's how it happens. That's exactly what happens. That's a hot flash.
But I think that's so, like, that's exactly how the sacred rage as well. It's
right.
like it starts as a little thing and it's there. So what if like we just allowed this whole transition to be a time where we're just burning through the layers of identities that either we've placed on ourselves, or like society has placed on us, or like everything, whether it being like you identify as a mother, you identify as a career woman, like whether you identify as a good friend, like it doesn't really matter what the identity is. It can be big, it can be small, it can be good cook, bad cook, whatever it is. But like, just let those identities just go away, because that's when you return, because deep down inside, you know who you are. You know what that inner knowing is guiding you towards. You know that like the deep soul desire that you have to be a contribution or to share with the world, all of these things. And the thing about fire is that it's often seen as destructive, but it's the opposite.
It's regenerative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fire leaves the most, like the best thing you can give to your plants is like ash, wood ash.
Mm-hmm.
Bushes burn, they need to burn.
All right. So burn, baby, burn. That's what I'm going to do the next time I'm having a hot flash. I'm going to turn it into a meditation on sacred rage, and I'm going to burn it up. And I'll let you know how that goes.
Have a paper towel. Have a paper towel handy. All right, Anna, are you about ready for the lightning round? All right.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead, Kim.
What rules have you chosen to rebel against on your journey to health?
Ooh, this is a good one. So I'll try to keep this short. But years ago, I was diagnosed with thyroid issues. Doctors said, you're gonna be on this pill for the rest of your life, or the natural world kind of said, you have to go on these diets, you have to do all of these things, you have to like follow a strict diet, supplements, all of these things. I chose for a while to do the conventional way because I was traveling. I had no idea if I would be able to have access to supplements or whatever, but I had an undying faith, like an yielding faith that I one day would be cured of it. So by not following anything that anyone has ever told me about to do, just allowing my body and energy work and dealing with the things that are coming up, like around my voice, around all of those things, that is now gone. That is now gone. And yeah, I haven't told my doctors because I find it easier to just every now and again go and do the checkup, and they tell me like, tests are good, continue what you're doing. Perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
So
Yeah.
that's but really like trusting yourself
Yeah.
and allowing yourself to explore.
And how many women have been taking a thyroid pill every day for decades and have been and totally bought into this just
Yeah.
something you have to live with.
And
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question. What does it mean to you to be holy?
This is such a good question.
Mhm.
Well, I lean in to that kind of every day, just breathing into the body. And to me, holy is like, if I want to see the holiness all around me, if I want to witness the magnificence of nature, I need to witness it within myself.
Mm.
So holy and whole goes hand in hand for me. And it's a practice of just breathing in and like being with whoever I am, like with all of their flaws or whatever you want to call it, like in that moment, but really just breathing into that and acknowledging like, yeah, this is me. And of course, all of it is holy, just as the butterflies and the plants and everyone else around me. So yeah, that's practice.
what do you want to say to a listener right now to help them rise up?
Well, I want to encourage everyone that feels like to really just place their hands on their hearts and just like breathe into their body and recognize that like this, it's all of you. This is what you came for. So even though it might look like not what you want to necessarily see with, you have bigger desires, you have the power in every moment to come into touch with yourself, because that is your breath. Your breath is the natural flow of deep connection, receiving and releasing in one.
Beautiful.
It's all there. It's all there.
Thank you for that reminder.
And thank you for coming on to the Rebellion. I understand that you have an offer, that you've got a program that you're rolling out. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this program has really come to, it's called the Limitless Body Program. And it's really about helping to clear a lot of these like limitations that we've put on ourselves, whether it being like how the body heals, or whether it being like, if you want to know what's healthy for your body, you have to ask XYZ, or you have to look for the answers outside of you. So the Limitless Body Program is really about that, coming back into yourself. And in that connection, clearing away all of like the distortions, the limitations, the narrative that is unhelpful, whatever it is that has put you in a separation between you and your body. So it's a journey, in a way, a journey into wholeness and a journey into your body. And it's a journey into really marveling at your ability to do everything in life, like to experience life, to create the life that you desire, to show up for your clients, to show up for life.
Beautiful. And that starts in September?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you
right.
can find more about Anna on her website, www.annagoldenray.com. And you can also find her on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. All of those links will be in the show notes. Thank you. Thank you, Anna.
Yep. Thank you for joining
you.
us.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Sacred Rebellion. We love connecting with you in this way. If you want to join the rebellion and enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to Sacred Rebellion.
Give us a rating and review, and please recommend us to your tribe. Follow us on social media at Sacred Rebellion Podcast on Facebook and Instagram.
Until next time, stay curious,
Stay courageous, and most of all, stay rebellious.